Amazon, Twitter, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft are allowing their employees to work from home.
For a business that can allow more employees to telecommute, we want you to do
This
that.
outbreak is a catalyst for whether or not that is something that is sustainable.
Work from home plan is hitting some glitches. Real challenges are in store.
It feels really surreal because when it all started and people, were talking about that, okay, it's now a pandemic, and then, which sounds like quite a scary word. This is like out of a movie. I don't understand. Watching everybody kind of pack up their stuff and move out the office.
Because our studios are so spread out,
we lean on all the studios to help us a little bit.
Chris had started a conversation about what would it look like if we put everybody work from home. We're in a really good position as a company. The nature of how we work with 5 different studios, we're already configured for remote anyway. There's a little bit of hiccup as people get figuring out what their needs are and if there's anything that isn't working quite right.
I think after a period of time of perhaps a little bit of weirdness of people just kind of getting used to the fact that they're at a desk, like maybe on their own or not around people, I actually think it's going to play out pretty standard.
For us, it was quicker than I think any of us had anticipated. We had estimated it would take us about a week to move everybody out, in an orderly process.
So it's been an interesting 2 days. We've been running into all sorts of problems from internet speeds to data caps.
And downloading 60 gig builds, whether that be a game dev build or a 3.9 branch or even the feature stream branch.
Our builds are gigantic, so if we have to pull them every day just to test new things, it's very resource complex. So we have to work around those problems.
Then we've got some VPN issues that we're trying to work out and figure out how we can resolve. And then from there, now that people have their families home, we're trying to work out how, if they need to take time off to teach their kids because they're not able to go there, or daycare, or their spouse is working, or that type of thing, then we need to be flexible with our work hours.
Well, security-wise, we're always observing, trying to, make sure that our perimeters are tight and that our exposure or risk of data loss is low as it possibly can be, of course. As far as from a publishing standpoint, pretty much everything we do is remoted anyway. Even if we're in the office, it's all through remote delivery systems.
It's nice you finally got the tap thing working.
At this point, I've been in quarantine for over a month now. We've resolved a lot of the VPN issues and a lot of the other issues that we were having. So the VPN one just wasn't built for hundreds of people, hitting it as hard as we possibly could. We've adjusted the way that builds got deployed. We've actually adjusted the way that we do leads meetings. So now we have a Thursday leads meeting that is about catching up with people and making sure that the communication is happening, making sure that everybody's healthy and doing all right. If anybody needs to be checked in on, is anybody sick? How are people's mental states? We're still continuing to do our sprints and still continuing to do our Scrum stand-ups, making sure that we keep that communication as tight-knit as we possibly can. It still doesn't match what it would be like, having teams basically right next to each other. And so we're not at 100%, capacity. You can see how some of those things that I talked about earlier will affect the release of 3.9, but for the most part, we're still in good spirits.
Before we started the sort of mainly working from home stuff that we're doing now, we'd started work on a couple of new spaces for the space stations. So the cargo shop is a little different from the shops which have been kind of like a single purpose shop. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all your cargo needs, and it'll have a small commercial area for retail purchases with possible sort of guild discounts available. Then there's a small administration area and also a small area to sort of eventually rent cargo specific ships as well, and potentially, like going forwards, cargo containers and things like that. It's obviously set in what we're trying to do as a sort of delivery warehouse, mentioning no sort of brand names of course, but if you've ever been in a post office it should be kind of familiar. It's a large warehouse with lots of stacks of different cargo and supplies, with a small commercial area for customer use. So another location that's getting a refresh is going to be GrimHex. We're adding hangars to GrimHex, and we're also adding XL hangar at GrimHex, which will mean that players who've been wanting to spawn larger ships should now be able to pretty soon. Another thing that's being worked on GrimHex right now is the racing aspect, so you should see the location starting to change to support racing when that comes in. You know, obviously we all miss the social interaction side of things. I think that same goes for probably everyone who's in this situation right now.
We've been staying in our weekly playtests longer and longer.
They've now become a much more important space for the company to sort of play and sort of interact together and socialize together, which is really nice.
So we made a lot of good progress these past few weeks.
Well, we don't know really what the future will hold for us, how many curveballs we'll get hit with, but you know, at least the problems that we've faced, I think we've done a fairly good job in resolving them. We haven't gotten everything, we haven't worked out all the inefficiencies yet, but we'll be able to come together as a team and really kind of push through these issues, and I'm excited to see what we can do.
The team members working from homes around the world are just as dedicated as ever to bring the 1-2 punch of Star Citizen and Squadron 42 to life. Even from their homes, many aspects of both projects continue to fire on all thrusters, from characters to VFX, from spacecraft to locations and beyond. Here's the sprint report. Starting things off with characters, concepts were recently submitted for review of NPC workers to be found in refinery decks, one of several new modules currently in development for the modular space station system. Like the cargo decks, these modules aim to add more than just another place to visit, but additional gameplay opportunities for players looking to make their living in the verse mining valuable resources. Also in concept are these heavy armors from the planet Terra, center of the UEE and the planet that humanity chose. Now, as with all concepts, these may or may not be chosen to be taken into implementation, but as we've explored before, that's life in the continuously iterative world of concept work, and you can bet we'll check in again if any of these designs move forward. In the world of VFX, Look Dev continues on updating the atmospheric re-entry effects for ships descending down upon various planets. Now, one of the challenges here is to develop an effect that looks good not only for the enormous variety of ships in the Star Citizen universe, but expanding the signed distance field, serving as the basis for that tech to adapt on the fly to spacecraft with transforming configurations, like the Cartual, the Reliant, and others. This look dev, which is very much like concepting, is where we explore what's possible with the tech before wide-scale implementation, including this potential exploration of a new burn shader that can alter the look of the hull itself in line with the superheated effects going on around it. Now, while we don't recommend attempting re-entry in these obviously dangerous manners, we nonetheless want to explore the potential for when pilots do the unexpected. And that never happens, does it? Speaking of vehicles and pilots, we've got a quick look at the updated exterior of the Cutlass Blue, with its unique canopy and current blue-gray exterior sure to set it apart from its red and black brethren, as well as a glimpse at the current white box progress of the Crusader Industries Hercules Starlifter, seen here in both its rough exterior and then working out some of the basic layout of its interior, which right now includes this very, very large hangar as well as the top deck above. Finally, oh, the places you'll go. And now that the rework of our existing planets and moons with Planet Tech V4 has been completed, The replacement, or redropping if you will, of points of interest has begun throughout the Stanton system, with these images of derelicts just waiting to be discovered and re-explored. The bartenders are coming, the bartenders are coming. Testbed for the gold standard work our social AI and animation teams have been doing in developing these true-to-life NPCs, the lighting teams are now taking another look at their locations to ensure that these bartenders blend in visually as well as we hope they will behaviorally. Also in play is early work on the Aaron Halo, the dense, torus-shaped asteroid belt that will one day be found within the Stanton system. Now, according to Stanton lore, this high-density belt would make quantum traveling through it impossible, requiring pilots that want to pass beyond to move through one of the Halo gateways owned by mega corporation ArcCorp. It's also intended to be one of the most valuable areas for mining in the entire system, both for sheer volume and selection of resources. Now, when we say early work, we mean it. This is still in look dev and resource testing, but as with all things, keep an eye on the public roadmap to find out more about when the Aaron Halo will make its way into the persistent universe. As we wrap up this week's show, Alpha 3.9 with its new features like the new Babbage landing zone, the 3 brand new moons around Microtech, the player status system, the prison system, unified friends list, personal inner thought and player interaction system improvements and more, has been in both internal and Evocati testing for the last several weeks, and now on PTU for the last several days. Now, while tremendous progress is being made, Alpha 3.9 still needs more testing before we can bring all these new aspects pulled together and intended to improve the gameplay experience for all players to live. But if there's one thing that we've learned, or rather that's been reinforced in this new work from home era, it's that while we may not always be able to predict what the next challenge will be, there's very little that can't be overcome when we all move together and work towards a common good. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Keep an eye on Spectrum for patch updates. Tune in to tomorrow's Calling All Devs, where we talk about the future of animals in the persistent universe. And we'll see you back here next week.